Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I am here to bring you a battle between two pre-release decks for Zendikar Rising. There are links to these decks in the description box below. Over here we have a Rakdos deck and over there we have a Simic deck. We're going to be playing the best of three and we'll get started by rolling for initiative. Rakdos rolls a 6. Simic rolls a 5. Rakdos will be on the play. We'll go ahead and draw our opening hand. Rakdos draws a Marauding Blight Priest, Sizzling Barrage, Mountain, Swamp, Nimana Skittersneak, Vanquish the Weak, and Swamp. I think this is a slow but acceptable first hand. Simic draws a Cascade Seer, Glacial Grasp, Forest, Jawari Disruption, Cunning Geyser Mage, Expedition Diviner, and Island. I think this is also a slow but acceptable first hand. Rakdos begins by playing a Swamp, and Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic draws a Salundi Vision. We will play the Salundi Vision as a land, using the backside here. The Salundi Vision is an instant. It says, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal an instant or sorcery card from among them. Put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. But we're going to be playing it as a land. It is Salundi Isle. It enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for blue. And then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos draws a Tormenting Voice. We'll play a mountain. And then we will tap everything and play Tormenting Voice. This is a sorcery. It says, as an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card, and then draw 2 cards. We will discard the Sizzling Barrage, and we'll draw a Swamp and a Grotag Bugcatcher, and then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws a Windrider Wizard. We'll play a Forest, and then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps, draws a Swamp. We'll play the Swamp. Then it looks like we should probably play the Blight Priest, so we'll tap out. We'll cast the Marauding Blight Priest. This is a 3/2 Vampire Cleric. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. In response, Simic will tap both of these and then cast Jawari Disruption. This is an instant. It counters target spell unless its controller pays 1. Rakdos doesn't have the mana, so the Marauding Blight Priest is countered. And then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws an island. We'll play the island, and then we will tap everything and cast a Windrider Wizard. This is a 2/2 human wizard with flying, and whenever you cast an instant, sorcery, or wizard spell, you may draw a card, and if you do, discard a card. And then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps, draws an Agadeem's Awakening. We'll play a Swamp over here. And then just to keep on curve, we will tap out and then cast a Nimana Skittersneak. This is a 3/4 human rogue, and as long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, it gets +1/+0 and has Menace. And then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws an island. We'll play an island. We will tap out and cast the Expedition Diviner. This is a 3/2 Merfolk Wizard with flying, and as long as you control another wizard, it has, when this creature dies, draw a card. And because we cast another wizard, we will draw a card and then discard a card. We drew a Forest. We will discard this island. And then we will attack with the Windrider Wizard for 2. Rakdos takes 2 and goes to 18. Then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps, draws a Swamp. We'll play the Swamp. Because we can't block, we'll go ahead and swing with the Skittersneak. Simic can't block, we'll go down to 17. Rakdos will tap 2 mana and cast the Grotag Bugcatcher. This is a 1/2 Goblin Warrior with Trample. And when it attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each creature in our party. There are now 2 creatures in the party, so it'll get +2/+0. And then while Simic is tapped out, we'll tap 3 mana and cast Vanquish the Weak. This is an instant. Destroy target creature with power 3 or less, targeting the Windrider Wizard. The Windrider Wizard dies, and then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws a Forest. We'll play a Forest. Simic will attack with the Expedition Diviner for 3. Rakdos takes 3 and goes to 15. Simic taps 4 mana and casts a Cascade Seer. This is a 3/3 Merfolk Wizard, and when it enters the battlefield, scry X, where X is the number of creatures in your party. This is a 1 creature party, and so we'll scry 1. We take a look at the forest and put it on the bottom. And then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos subtaps. Draws a Magmatic Channeler. We might as well attack. We'll attack with both creatures. The Grotag Bugcatcher will become a 3/2. We'll trade the Cascade Seer for the Grotag Bugcatcher. Cascade Seer dies and will take 3 damage from the Nemana Skittersteak to go down to 14. The Bugcatcher dies. Then Rakdos will spend 2 mana and cast the Magmatic Channeler. This is a 1/3 human wizard. As long as there are 4 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, it gets +3/+1. You can tap it to discard a card. To exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may then choose one of them. You may play that card this turn. There are 3 instants and sorceries, so there's just 1 more needed for it to become a 4/4. We'll play the Swamp, and Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps. Draws a Marasa Sproutling. We'll play the Forest. We'll swing with the Expedition Diviner. Rakdos can't block. We'll go to 12. Then Simic will tap out and cast a Kicked Cunning Geyser Mage. This is a 3/2 human wizard with Kicker 2 blue. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return it to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. We'll return the Nemana Skittersneak. The Skittersneak bounces. Then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps. Draws a Spikefield Hazard. Rakdos will tap 4 mana and recast the Nemana Skittersneak, and then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps. Draws a Jwari Disruption. Simic will swing with the Expedition Diviner for 3. Rakdos takes 3 and goes to 9. And then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps. Draws a Malakir Blood Priest. Simic will tap the Magmatic Channeler, discarding the Spikefield Hazard. That will make 4 instants and sorceries, making this a 4/4. We'll exile the top 2 cards. We have a Nemana Skittersneak and an Ardent Electromancer. We'll choose the Nemana Skittersneak, keeping the Ardent Electromancer exiled. We will tap 4 to cast the Nemana Skittersneak number 2. We'll play 2 more to cast the Malakir Blood Priest. This is a 2/1 Vampire Cleric. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures in your party. We have 3 creatures in our party due to Cleric, Wizard, and Rogue. In response to the casting of the Blood Priest, Simic will tap 2 mana and cast another Jwari Disruption, targeting the Blood Priest on the stack. The Blood Priest is countered. Rakdos will go to combat. Before combat, Simic will tap 3 and cast Glacial Grasp, targeting the non-summonistic Nemana Skittersneak. This is an instant. It says tap target creature. Its controller mills 2 cards. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Draw a card. We drew a card. It's a Dauntless Survivor. The Skittersneak is tapped, and Rakdos will mill 2 cards. The first one is a Swamp. The second one is a Swamp. And Rakdos, unable to attack, will pass the turn. Simic untaps. Draws an Expedition Diviner. Simic will tap 2 mana and cast the Dauntless Survivor. This is a 1/1 human warrior. When it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. We'll choose the Cunning Geyser Mage, and then we're going to swing with the Geyser Mage and the Expedition Diviner for 7. Rakdos will trade the Skittersneak for the Geyser Mage. The Skittersneak dies, but we're still going to take 3 in the air to go to 6. The Geyser Mage dies. Then Simic will tap out and cast the second Expedition Diviner, and then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps. Draws a Ghastly Gloomhunter. I think that will save us. We are going to attack with the Skittersneak and the Channeler for 7. Simic will chump the Channeler with the Dauntless Survivor and take 3 to go to 11. Rakdos will tap out and cast a Kicked Ghastly Gloomhunter. This is a 1/1 zombie bat with Kicker 3 and black. With Flying and Lifelink, if it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. And then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps. Draws a Jaraga Visionary. I think we have to force the issue, so we're going to swing with both Diviners. Rakdos will take the trade with the Gloomhunter. We'll gain 3 and lose 3, so staying at 6. We lose one of the Diviners, but because of the clause in its text, we draw a card. That is a Field Research. We will spend 4 mana and cast the Jiraga Visionary. This is a 3/2 elf wizard. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. We draw a Kazandu Stomper, and then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps. Draws a Marauding Blight Priest. We'll go to combat and swing with both of these. We can't block the Skitter Sneak because it now has Menace, so we'll be taking 8 damage if we don't chump the Channeler. I think we can afford the 8 damage, so we'll take it to go to 3. Then Rakdos will tap out and cast Agadeem's Awakening at X equals 3. It's a sorcery. It says return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have different converted mana cost X or less. So we're going to return 2 creatures, the Marauding Blight Priest and the Malakir Blood Priest. As this enters the battlefield, we're going to drain my opponent for 3 life, going up to 9. And Simic perishes, losing the first game. We'll see if there's any sideboarding to do, and we'll be right back for game 2. For game 2, Simic will choose to be on the play. Simic draws an island, Kazandu Mammoth, Jwari Disruption, Ashaya Soul of the Wild, Cascade Seer, Skyclave Squid, and Forest. I think this is an acceptable first hand, so we will keep it. Rakdos draws a Namana Skitter Sneak, Swamp, Zagras, Thief of Heartbeats, Magmatic Channeler, Pyroclastic Hellion, Ravager's Mace, and Swamp. We can't really cast anything, so we're going to mulligan this. Now we have a Swamp, Malakir Blood Priest, Marauding Blight Priest, Pyroclastic Hellion, Teeterpeak Ambusher, Marauding Blight Priest, and Mountain. It's not a great hand, but I think we can keep this one. We're going to take the Pyroclastic Hellion and stick this on the bottom. Simic will begin by playing a Jwari Disruption on the backside as a Jwari Ruins. It is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for blue. It enters the battlefield tapped. And then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos draws a Synchronized Spellcraft. We will play a Mountain. And then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws, gets an Expedition Diviner. We'll play a Forest. We'll tap both of these and we'll play the Skyclave Squid. This is a 3/2 squid with Defender, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, it can attack this turn as though it didn't have Defender. And then Skyclave Squid will pass the turn. Rakdos draws a Swamp. We'll play the Swamp. We'll tap both of these. We'll cast a Teeterpeak Ambusher. This is a 1/3 Goblin Warrior with 2 and red. It gets +2/+0 until end of turn. And then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws, gets a Canopy Baloth. We're going to play the island. This will trigger the Skyclave Squid, and we will attack with the 3/2 squid. Rakdos declines the block. We'll take 3 and go to 17. And then Simic passes the turn. Rakdos untaps, draws an Agadeem's Awakening. We'll play the Swamp. We're going to tap out. We'll play a Malakir Blood Priest. We'll attack with the Teeterpeak Ambusher for 1. Simic loses 1, goes to 19. Then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws a Forest. We'll play the Forest, which will turn the Skyclave Squid on. We will attack with the Skyclave Squid for 3. Rakdos will take 3 and go to 14. Then we'll tap out and cast the Canopy Baloth. This is a 4/3 beast with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps, draws, gets a Namana Skitter Sneak. We will play Agadeem's Awakening as a land. This is Agadeem the Undercrypt. It's a land. It enters the battlefield. You may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. We will pay 3 life to go down to 11. And then we will tap out to cast the Namana Skitter Sneak. We'll swing with the Blight Priest. Simic will decline to block. We'll take 3 and go to 16. And then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws a Field Research. Simic will play the Kazandu Mammoth as a land. As a creature, it is a 3/3 elephant, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. As a land, it is Kazandu Valley, enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for green. This will trigger the Canopy Baloth and the Skyclave Squid, and we will attack with both of these for 9. We'll take 6 from the Baloth and we'll block the Squid with the Skitter Sneak. Probably shouldn't have attacked with that, but the squid dies. Rakdos goes down to 5. On the second main, we'll tap out and we'll cast the Expedition Diviner. And then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps. Draws a Grotag Bugcatcher. We're hoping to get the Synchronized Spellcraft going, but that's not the case. So we will spend 2 mana and cast the Malakir Blood Priest. As it enters the battlefield, we will have 3 party, so we'll gain 3 to go up to 8, and that'll also trigger the Blight Priest. So Simic will lose 4 and go down to 12. And then we will attack with the Blight Priest and the Skitter Sneak for 6. I think we need to hold ourselves back defensively, so we will take the 6 and go to 6. Then Rakdos will tap and cast the Grotag Bugcatcher, and then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws a Skyclave Pickaxe. Seems like we're going to have to be on the defense here. We'll tap out and cast Ashaya, Soul of the Wild. This is a star-starred legendary elemental. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, so it's a 5/5 right now. Non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. So it is now a land as well as the other 2, which will trigger the Canopy Baloth. But since we want to stay on the defense so we don't die next turn, we will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps. Draws a Drawn Silencer. We will just swing with everything. This will cause the Grotag Bugcatcher to become a 4/2 Trampler. We have to minimize damage here, so we'll block the Bugcatcher with Ashaya. We'll block the Skitter Sneak with the Canopy Baloth, and the Blight Priest with the Expedition Diviner. That's 2 trades, a block, and then 3 damage. Rakdos will decline to power the Ambusher, so we'll take the trades and Simic will take 3 to go down to 3. The Baloth and the Diviner die. The Blood Priest, the Skitter Sneak, and the Bugcatcher die. And then on the second main, Rakdos will tap 3 and cast another Marauding Blight Priest, and then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws an Expedition Diviner. We'll play 4 mana and cast a Cascade Seer. We'll scry 1. We'll take the forest and put it on the bottom. We'll tap another mana and cast the Skyclave Pickaxe. This is an equipment. When it enters the battlefield, attach a target creature you control. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, equipped creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You can equip it for 2 and green. We will stick this on the Ashaya. And then, since we don't want to die in the backswing, we will have to hold for this turn. Rakdos untaps. Draws a Nimana Skitter Sneak. We're going to try to push the issue here, so we'll swing with everything. We have to block the Ambusher and the Blight Priest, so we will put the Seer on the Ambusher to force them to use the mana to pump it, and block the Blight Priest with Ashaya. Rakdos will decline to pump the Ambusher, and instead will lose both of its creatures to get 2 damage through to take Simic to 1. Rakdos loses the Blight Priest and the Ambusher. We'll tap 4 and cast the Skitter Sneak, and then Rakdos will pass the turn. Simic untaps, draws a Maraza Sproutling. We're going to need some way to not die on the backswing, so we can't really attack. So we'll spend 4 mana and cast the Expedition Diviner. This will trigger the Skyclave Pickaxe, but that doesn't matter because I don't think we can safely attack. That makes Ashaya a 10/10. Actually, we can safely attack. We're going to swing with the 10/10 because every creature is a land right now because none of them are tokens. So that's an 8/8 plus the Skyclave Pickaxe trigger makes it a 10/10. We'll swing with Ashaya for 10. Rakdos is forced to chump with the Skitter Sneak. Then Simic will pass the turn. Rakdos untaps, draws a Swamp, and got the miracle they wanted. They'll play the Swamp, and they'll tap out and cast Synchronized Spellcraft. It's an instant. It deals 4 damage to target creature and X damage to that creature's controller, where X is the number of creatures in the party. Will target the Cascade Seer. This will kill the Cascade Seer and then deal 1 damage to Simic to defeat Simic. So Rakdos defeats Simic in straight back-to-back sets, but these were some really close games, so I thought that it was always on the edge of our seat here. Let me know what you thought about the games in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can hit subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.